Hmm. Oh, but Javier, you gotta be nice to Game B. Oh God. I don't know if I want to be nice to Game B. Okay. So actually this I had to talk about this because Daniel and I were already talking about this, right? So OG Rose and I were talking about Game B, and he talked about scapegoating. And I thought that this was such a perfect point to bring up that I had to do a video about it. uh, and and so my concern about Game B is that paradoxically it's always going to come out to be Game A, and it's on this very subtle point. This very subtle point is that is that Game B scapegoats it scapegoats man in this, right? It scapegoats man himself, right? Because, but then there's that really Hegelian thing where they say that man is a part of nature. So then that means that if Game B is scapegoating man, that actually they're scapegoating which man is a part of nature. So then that means they are scapegoating nature. And the reason why I'm saying that Game B is scapegoating man is because that fundamentally what Game B is trying to say that is absolutely failing to say because they don't really, I don't even think they know what they're trying to say in this specific video of the animation. Okay. Uh, and this is how I'm going to put it, that Game B wants man to love himself. And this is why the whole video is kind of like this weird scapegoat about Game A and man himself and what he's been doing. Um, and so they try to say like, oh, we should love nature and try to weave this sort of like false moral thread, which isn't a true moral thread. It's I mean, honestly, if Nietzsche was here, he'd be disgusted about how basically it's the same wolves that were in Game A, but they're just pretending to be sheep, right? They're just pretending to be sheep. That's all. Um, and I think even Nietzsche does this funny parable about the sheep kind of what is it, making the wolves feel guilty, making the wolves feel guilty, and then so like the wolves uh, start becoming docile. it's it's absolutely just freaking amazing how Nietzsche like basically calls it this, he calls this out. Like I really did think he fundamentally stood like man's nature to a really good extent. Uh, so again, Game B, even though it keeps explicitly wanting to talk about nature, wholeness, rejuvenation, all that bullshit, but really it's it's the same self-serving attitude as it is in Game A. So that means fundamentally Game B is no different than Game A. What's up, Will? Um, and the problem is that Game B is scapegoating man, right? But then Game B wants to pretend like nature, it, you know, that tries to play some moral fabric about we need to save nature. But again, like I had previously alluded in the last video, is that nature doesn't care whether you survive or not. So that means that it's still the same self-serving attitude. And that's the problem that I have with Game B, is that they try to weave they try to weave like we got to be better moral people, but fundamentally you're still doing the same thing because nature doesn't care whether you live or not. Um, but you do care about whether you live, and that's what game B is trying to say, is that man is killing himself in game A. So we could say that Freud's death drive is really playing itself out in game A, and game B is like, hey, we're killing ourselves. Maybe we shouldn't do that. And again, I don't have a problem with game B saying that. I have a problem with game B acting like we should get on like some kind of moral virtue about saving nature when really it's still about saving ourselves. But there is like a hidden virtue. There is a hidden virtue in there, but game B doesn't say it. And game B still fundamentally is no different from game A because game B is scapegoating man himself, right? He's blaming man for the situation that he's in. Now, why is man in game A in the situation that he's in? It's not because man doesn't love nature. It has absolutely, I want to say it has absolutely nothing to do with nature, right? Man is in the situation that he's in because he doesn't fundamentally love himself, right? So it's a very sadomasochistic relationship. He doesn't love himself. It appears that man is being heartless and destroying nature. But again, nature doesn't care whether you survive or not. So fundamentally, man is killing himself in this very enactment. He is hurting himself, right? He's causing suffering to himself. And Game B wants us to realize this. But the reason why Game B is still like Game A is because by scapegoating man, by blaming man, Game B still doesn't realize that man, all man wants to do or all man needs to do is love himself, right? He needs to love himself as he is, right? And it's because man has a problem with being as he is that he can't love himself fundamentally. And to use like a theological scripture, right? There's a verse from the Quran that says, to know yourself is to know God, right? I think this plays in there about the idea of loving yourself, right? Because man does not want to know what he is. He doesn't want to be as he is. And it's because he doesn't want to be as he is that he struggles to love himself, right? He doesn't accept the qualities that he does have. And so that's why game A is destructive to man. But then game B is no different from game A because game B is still blaming man. It's kind of like this self-hatred for himself, really. That's what it boils down to. And that's really it. And so it's again this wolves pretending to be wolves pretending to be sheep. That's how I look at it. And again, there's more critiques about Game B, and I know there's deeper philosophies in Game B, but I'm still mainly critiquing that huge notion of nature, their notion of nature, kind of reconnecting with nature. But that is some bullshit, like you're not morally better than Game A. And you're not going to be morally better than Game A if you're going it about that way. If you're going it about that way, you're not going to be. You only become morally better than Game A is when you realize that you are doing the same thing as Game A, except you want to exploit nature in a smart way where you don't kill yourself. So that's really my main beef with the video. There's a bunch of talk, but again, the other thing is that I'm surprised capitalism wasn't brought up in there. They just made it. Okay, yeah. I mean, so again, that's mainly my huge critique. I leave the other critique to other people. They have more knowledge in that area. I'm just kind of looking at what I noticed, how the way they describe nature, how they try to place this false moral thread, which I don't feel that this false moral thread that Game B is weaving is a bunch of bullshit. This is a bunch of bullshit because if you're scapegoating man, you're no different from the people in Game A. Um, so, and I did want to talk about the Christ example about Jesus sacrificing. So what's interesting about if we take the Christian mythology, um, we can always interpret this as like, oh, man scapegoats Jesus to kill. Um, man scapegoats Jesus um, and sacrifices him, right? But actually, scapegoating Jesus is actually scapegoating ourselves, basically. Because remember, in this example, Jesus is man. Jesus is man. Jesus is man in this example. Jesus comes down as man, as human. And that means uh, man is scapegoating himself. That man does not know how to love himself. Um, okay, are you familiar with stigmata? No, I'm not. Oh, Will, I've been wanting to ask you, and I think this is the perfect time to ask you, actually. Um, so I think that we should do a. I would like to have one. I don't know if you drink, but I would like to do a drunk interview with you because I've been doing a drunk interview series. But if we can't do a drunk interview series, then I would like to do an interview with you or just a discussion with you on mysticism. I think this would be a really good talk. I've been wanting to have a talk on mysticism for a while, and I think you'd be the perfect person to have it with. And yeah, I think that will be a really good talk to have. Of course, it can always be again the drunk interview can also be on the topic of mysticism, so it doesn't have to be on anything else. Great excuse to drink some wine. Yeah, there you go, there you go, there you go. Uh, yeah, I really do love the drunk series that I've been starting. So yeah, man, I'm not familiar with stigmata, but I hand out that invitation to you. And with that, I will, um, yeah, with that, I will end the video because that's all I want to say. I didn't really have much more to say than that. Um, all right. All right. Take care, Will. Yeah. I will definitely pin your message. That way I can find you. Okay. I will definitely email you. All right. Take care, guys. Take care, Will. Bye.